All right, so you know how sometimes you get bombarded with tech news and reviews, right? Like pages and pages of specs and jargon.
Oh, absolutely. It can be overwhelming, especially when you just want the gist, the stuff that actually matters.
Exactly. And that's where we come in. Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech, where we cut through the noise and give you the lowdown on the latest gadgets and tech trends.
We like to think of it as your tech cheat sheet.
I like that, a cheat sheet. And today we're taking a deep dive into Sony's 2025 TV lineup.
We've been poring over all the announcements, hands-on reports, early reviews, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we did our homework. And the mission here is to break down the highlights, make sense of what's new, what's interesting, and what it all means for you if you're thinking about upgrading your home theater experience.
Because let's face it, the TV market can be a bit of a jungle out there. Lots of options, lots of confusing terms.
Oh, yeah. And even trying to decipher Sony's naming scheme this year feels like a puzzle in itself. Bravia 3, 5, 7, 8, then an 8 Mark II, and a 9.
Right. It's like they're playing number bingo.
Seriously. But hey, that's what we're here for, to unravel the mystery and tell you what's what.
And once you peel back the layers, there's some pretty cool things happening.
Definitely. We even got a sneak peek at some of this tech in action during a recent trip to Tokyo.
That was an awesome experience.
Yeah.
Not just seeing the new TVs themselves, but also getting a sense of Sony's overall philosophy, you know?
Yeah, like going behind the scenes, understanding the connection between how movies and shows are made and how they want us to experience them at home.
Exactly. They're involved in every stage, from those high-end Cine Alta cameras used on movie sets to professional mastering monitors used for post-production.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the TVs we all watch at home.
It's all connected. So let's start breaking down the lineup, model by model. And we'll kick things off with the Bravia 3. This is their entry-level offering, essentially a carryover from last year. So what's the deal with this one?
All right, so the Bravia 3. Think of it as your solid, dependable, no-frills option. It uses a 60 Hz LED panel with direct backlighting, which means the entire backlight is either on or off. No local dimming here. In terms of brightness, you're probably looking at around 500 nits based on test patterns.
Okay, so not the flashiest specs, but what's the appeal? Why choose this over, say, a similarly priced TV from another brand?
The Sony magic, even at this level, is in the processing. They really squeeze the best possible picture quality out of the hardware using their image processing expertise. It's for folks who are maybe on a tighter budget but still want that Sony experience.
Right, that classic Sony look. And I guess that lack of local dimming you mentioned, that means the contrast and black levels won't be as impressive.
Yeah, that's the trade-off. Instead of true deep blacks, you'll probably see more of a dark gray because the entire backlight is always on. It impacts the overall contrast.
Gotcha. So you're prioritizing affordability and Sony's processing over top-notch contrast. All right, moving on up, we have the Bravia 5. And this one sounds like a more significant step up in terms of features.
Oh, absolutely. The Bravia 5 is where things start to get interesting. It's their most affordable model to feature mini LED backlighting with full array local dimming.
Mini LED local dimming. These are words we hear a lot, but just to break it down for folks who might not be familiar.
Sure. So mini LEDs are much smaller than traditional LEDs, meaning you can pack way more of them behind the screen.
Like tiny little lights instead of one big one.
Exactly. And that allows for much finer control over the backlight. And local dimming means different zones of the screen can be brightened or dimmed independently. So if you have a scene with a bright moon in a dark night sky, the area around the moon can be super bright while the rest of the screen stays nice and dark.
Ah, that makes sense. So much better contrast and more vibrant colors. Sounds pretty impressive. And what about the panel itself? Is it keeping up with all this fancy backlighting tech?
From what we've gathered, the Bravia 5 is expected to have a 120 Hz panel.
Which is good news for gamers especially, right? Smoother motion, less blur.
Exactly. And it's also likely to support VRR, variable refresh rate, and Dolby Vision game mode, so definitely gamer-friendly.
Nice. And brightness. How much of a jump are we talking compared to the Bravia 3?
We're expecting peak brightness to be in the 1200 to 1500 nit range.
Okay.
So a considerable boost, especially for HDR content. It'll really make those highlights pop.
Okay, so the Bravia 5 is shaping up to be a strong contender for those who want better HDR performance, smoother gaming, but still at a more accessible price point than some of the higher-end models.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Now let's move into what I would call the serious performance territory with the Bravia 7. This one's packing some serious firepower, right?
Oh, yeah. This is where we're getting into enthusiast-grade territory.
Yeah.
The Bravia 7 is another mini LED TV, and it's really impressive. In fact, if the Bravia 9 didn't exist, this could easily be considered their flagship LED model, We're talking about a peak brightness of around 2,000 nits.
Wow, 2,000 nits. That's like staring into the sun almost. Okay, maybe not that bright, but
Yep.
seriously impressive. What else makes the Bravia 7 stand out?
Aside from the brightness, it also has an excellent color gamut, meaning it can display a wider range of colors. And the color accuracy, especially in its professional mode, is top-notch. So if you're someone who's really picky about color reproduction and wants things to look as accurate as possible, the Bravia 7 is a great choice.
So for filmmakers, photographers, anyone who works with color professionally, this would be a good option. But are there any drawbacks to be aware of? Anything we should consider?
Based on reviews of last year's model, the off-angle viewing might not be the best. You might see some drop in contrast and saturation if you're not sitting directly in front of the TV, and the effectiveness of the anti-glare coating can be a bit subjective. Some people might find it fine, others might still experience some reflections in bright rooms.
Okay, good to know. Now, we're entering the world of OLED with the Bravia 8, and this year it's a bit of a two-part story.
Right. We have the standard Bravia 8, which is a carryover from last year, using the classic WRGB OLED panel. It's their answer to LG's C-Series OLEDs, basically. And it's the only way to get a 77-inch OLED from Sony this year.
Interesting. So if you want that massive OLED screen from Sony, the standard Bravia 8 is your go-to. But then we have the exciting new kid on the block, the Bravia 8 Mark II. This is where things get really interesting because this is Sony's first QD OLED TV.
That's right. The Bravia 8 Mark II is the one that's generating all the buzz. And for good reason. QD-OLED, or quantum dot OLED, is this really cool technology that combines the perfect blacks and infinite contrast of OLED with the added brightness and wider color gambits that quantum dots bring to the table. It's like a hybrid, taking the best of both worlds.
Sounds pretty awesome on paper. But the naming is a little strange, right? If this is their super premium OLED, why not call it the Bravia 10 or something?
Yeah, it's a little quirk of Sony's marketing. They still see their top-of-the-line mini LED TV, the Bravia 9, as their true flagship, even over this new QD OLED. So calling it the Bravia 10 might have suggested that it's superior to their best LCD, which isn't really their positioning.
So it's like a hierarchy thing. The Bravia 9 still reigns supreme, even though the Bravia 8 Mark II might in some ways be more technologically advanced.
Yeah, it's a bit of a technicality. But the Bravia 8 Mark II is definitely the hot new thing in their lineup.
Definitely one to watch. Now, speaking of the top dog, let's talk about the Bravia 9. This one's a carryover from last year, which might surprise some people.
It might seem odd at first, but it makes sense when you think about it. The Bravia 9 was launched pretty late in 2024, so it's still relatively new. Plus, it's already widely regarded as one of, if not the best, mini LED TV on the market right now.
So why mess with a winning formula?
Exactly. It's got incredible brightness, amazing contrast, all of Sony's best processing tech. So from their perspective, there wasn't a pressing need to replace it this year.
Makes sense. Especially if they're potentially working on even more advanced tech for the future, like that rumored RGB mini LED we keep hearing whispers about.
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. Some people speculate that Sony might end up using odd numbers for their LCD models and even numbers for OLEDs going forward. But with only 2 OLED models right now, it's more of a pattern than a rule.
We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. But looking at this whole lineup, from the Bravia 3 all the way up to the Bravia 9, is there a common thread, a key focus that Sony seems to be emphasizing across the board?
Absolutely. The consistent message is all about their image processing and their commitment to delivering the creator's intent. Every single Bravia TV is packed with their XR processors, which are designed to analyze the image and reproduce it as accurately as possible to what the director intended you to see.
It's like they're saying, we're not just showing you a picture, we're showing you the filmmaker's vision.
Precisely. And their deep roots in content creation. Those professional cameras, the mastering monitors, give them a unique advantage in this regard. They're not just a TV manufacturer, they're a part of the whole filmmaking ecosystem.
Which brings us to a topic that often comes up with Sony TVs, the Sony tax. People often say that Sony TVs are more expensive than comparable models from other brands. So what are we paying extra for? What's the justification?
A big part of it is their meticulous screen uniformity process. They go to great lengths to ensure that every single panel is as uniform as possible.
And what does that mean in practice? What are they actually doing?
Every Bravia TV, before it leaves the factory, undergoes a very thorough uniformity check. They use a high-precision camera to scan the screen while it's displaying specific test patterns designed to reveal any inconsistencies in the brightness across the panel.
So they're looking for any areas that are darker or lighter than they should be, any kind of splotches or banding, things like that.
Exactly. And if they find any imperfections, their system doesn't just flag it, it actually tries to correct it. They can adjust the brightness levels in very specific zones of the screen to compensate for those inconsistencies and make the whole panel as uniform as possible.
It's like they're fine-tuning every single pixel.
In a way, yes. And they even showed us a demonstration using colored film to illustrate how effective this process is. They placed pieces of tinted film, some green, some red, over a gray image on the screen.
So without any correction, you would see these colored patches, right?
Yeah, very clearly. But then they activated the uniformity correction, and almost instantly, the whole screen became uniformly gray, even through the colored film. It was only when they removed the film that you could see the underlying color adjustments the TV had made to compensate for the tint.
That's pretty amazing, and it's not just something they do on their high-end models, right?
No, this uniformity calibration is applied to every single Bravia TV, from the most affordable to the most expensive.
So that's part of what you're paying for with that Sony tax, that extra level of quality control, that attention to detail to deliver a cleaner, more uniform image.
Exactly. It's about ensuring a certain level of baseline picture quality across the board. And it's a big reason why Sony has maintained such a strong reputation in the TV market for so long.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into Sony's 2025 TV lineup. There's a lot to be excited about, from the new QD OLED to the continued refinement of their mini LED and traditional LED models.
Absolutely. And understanding their commitment to screen uniformity really adds another layer of appreciation for their approach to TV design and manufacturing.
Definitely. So as we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What are your initial impressions of Sony's strategy this year? And out of all these new TVs, which one are you personally most intrigued by?
I think it's a smart strategy to offer a diverse range of technologies and price points while still emphasizing that core focus on processing and picture quality. For me, the Bravia 8 Mark II is the one that's really piqued my interest. QD OLED is such a promising technology, and I'm eager to see how Sony implements it and how it performs in real-world viewing.
Agreed. That's definitely the one that's caught my eye as well. All right, well, that concludes our deep dive into Sony's 2025 TV lineup. We hope you found it informative and maybe even a little bit entertaining.
As always, we appreciate you joining us for this tech journey.
Thanks for tuning in to Byte-Sized Tech. If you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments. Which TV has caught your eye? We always love hearing from you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions.
Until next time.
See you then.